Caps off 4 years in the White House for the president and more than 5 decades in politics and public service. Speaking from the Oval Office, Biden touted his legacy, but also issued a series of stark warnings to the country as he prepares to cede power to President-elect Trump.
I want to warn the country of some things that give me great concern. This is a dangerous concentration, and that's a dangerous concentration of power in the hands of a very few ultra-wealthy people. The dangerous consequences if their abuse of power is left unchecked. Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, basic rights, freedoms, a fair shot for everyone to get ahead. I'm equally concerned about the potential rise of a tech-industrial complex that can pose real dangers for our country as well. Americans are being buried under an avalanche of misinformation and disinformation, enabling the abuse of power. Free press is crumbling. Editors are disappearing. Social media is giving up on fact-checking. The truth is smothered by lies told for power and for profit. We must hold the social platforms accountable to protect our children, our families, our very democracy from the abuse of power. After 50 years of public service, giving my word, I still believe in the idea which this nation stands. A nation where the strength of our institutions, the character of our people matter, must endure. Now it's your turn to stand guard. May you all be the keeper of the flame. May you keep the faith. I love America. You love it too. God bless you all. May God protect our troops. Thank you for this great honor.
Joining us now is White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal, Ken Thomas. Ken, thank you for staying up late watching that speech last night. And then, of course, coming here early this morning. 9 p.m. is early and way too early world. Talk to us about what your takeaways were from that, because to me, it felt like the man who came in with Battle for the Soul of a Nation is reorienting who the battle is against at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you often hear President Biden talk about the influence of his father or stories of bipartisanship in the Senate. We didn't have that last night. This was really about Biden looking ahead into the future and telling the American people, these are the things you should be worried about. I was struck also just by how many of these items have emerged during the transition. This was not about looking about the entire 4 years. This was looking at the influence of Elon Musk, joining calls with Trump, with world leaders, or, the decision by Meta to not do fact checking anymore. White House officials tell me that President Biden is clearly, concerned about these things and that he really wanted to make that clear to the American people.
How much do you think, this is a man who has had, as we said, more than 4 decades in public service, how much do you think he appreciates or doesn't the fact that his legacy right now in the immediate term is being defined by someone like Trump, who he clearly, as much as he's embracing a peaceful transfer of power, no love lost there, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. It's clearly frustrating for Biden to run against Trump in 2020, and he was essentially the antidote to Trump when he got elected, and now he has to pass the baton to Trump, at a time when, the country, in his view, is not moving in the right direction. So this is clearly concerning for him. I think, though, Biden has also seen how Jimmy Carter was received in his funeral last week. And I think there's certainly a sense of hope that in the years ahead, that Americans will view his presidency in a different light, in a more favorable light than what we're seeing now. We certainly heard elements of that in his speech where he talked about, some of his achievements and that it'll take time for those issues to take root.
Yeah, certainly. Legacies are not just built in the immediate term. They span out over years and decades. But the other baton that he is passing to Trump is the one that is actively being put together right now in terms of a ceasefire and hostage deal in the Middle East. Can you talk about what this hostage framework deal means to President Biden? He was even asked in the Oval, in the room where he was giving remarks with Vice President Harris and Secretary of State Blinken, who gets credit for this? And he said, "Are you kidding?"
Exactly. I mean, this has been a lingering issue for Biden. It has been the top of his to-do list for months and months now. And so I think there's deep satisfaction that the Biden team was able to get this across the finish line. And they did work, in partnership with the Trump team, because they know that Trump will be implementing this. Steve Witkoff, the Middle East envoy for Trump, was at the table in Doha. And I think there's a sense within the administration that the circumstances just lined up very well. You have Netanyahu in a stronger position to push back against sort of the right-wing forces within his party. Hamas's leadership has been decimated. And then you had this threat of Trump saying that all hell will break loose if we don't reach a deal by the 20th. So I think this is one of those cases where things just lined up very effectively, and both sides want credit, of course, and that's Washington.
A true confluence of events.
Right.
Yeah. Ken Thomas, Wall Street Journal, White House reporter. Thank you for waking up.